Hi, good morning. Under GST, today we are going to discuss the value of supply. Value of supply means that is the transaction value on which GST shall be payable. Suppose the transaction value is 1 lakh, you have to pay GST on 1 lakh. Suppose the GST rate is 18% and the value of transaction is 1 lakh, so you have to pay GST 18% of 1 lakh. That means transaction value is very important on payment of GST. So in value of supply, some items are included in value of supply, some items are excluded from value of supply. One by one we are going to discuss in this point. And one more important point, what are the provisions and rules are applicable for value of supply under CGST? The same rules are made applicable for IGST. What are the rules are applicable for CGST? The same rules and provisions are also applicable for IGST also. So here first we are going to learn the value of supply. What is value of supply? As per section 15(1) of the CGST Act, value of supply means value of supply of goods or services or both shall be the transaction value. That value is the transaction value, which is the price actually paid or payable. Suppose the transaction value is 1 lakh, you have paid the value and take the goods. You have paid the value and the services are payable. That maybe the value may be payable after 1 month. Today we are purchasing some goods, the amount shall be payable after 1 month also sometimes because of the terms of the agreement. That means which the amount is paid or actually payable for the said supply of goods or services or both, where the supplier and recipient of the supply are not related. If I am supplying goods to one of my brother, if I am supplying goods to my brother, I can reduce my value. So in such case, the supplier and recipient of the supply are not related. The important point is first it shall be the transaction value for which the goods, for which the amount is paid or actually paid or payable, and the supplier and recipient are not related, and the price is the sole consideration for the supply. That means price is the only sole consideration. That means for example, I bought a laptop for 1 lakh. I have paid 80,000 to supplier and 20,000 I have given of my audit service. So it is not total value. Some value in money, some value in consideration. So while that means value not wholly, that is what is that one? There are not wholly sole consideration, because one value in money, some value in monetary conditions. Some, and one more point, suppose the supplier is liable to pay some amount to X, the recipient is paid such amount to X. Actually the 1 lakh is the laptop value, 80,000 is given to the supplier, 20,000 is given to some other person on the directions of supplier. So in such a case, price is not the sole consideration. That means price should be the sole consideration. What is the value? Value of supply means value of supply of goods or services or both. That shall be the transaction value on which the price is actually paid or payable for the supply of said goods or services, where the recipient or supplier not the related persons, and the price is the sole consideration for the supply. Price is only the sole consideration. If the price is not the sole consideration, some other we have to include in such value. Understand? So what is the related person we are going to discuss right now only. That means first you understand the concept. It should be the transaction value. It should be for the amount actually paid or payable, where the recipient and supplier are not related, and the price is the sole consideration. If all these conditions satisfied, that is the value of supply. Understand? I can read for better understanding. Value of supply of goods or services or both shall be the transaction value, which is the price actually paid or payable for the said supply of goods or services or both, where the supplier and recipient of the supply are not related, and the price is the sole consideration for the supply. The related person we are going to discuss. Then here I already informed you, some of items should be added to the value of supply, some of the items we have to deduct. That we are going to discuss. The value of supply shall include any taxes, duties, cess, fees and charges levied under any law for the time being in force other than this act, the State Goods and Service Tax Act, UTGST Act, and the Goods and Service Tax Compensation to States Act, and if charged separately by the supply. That means any taxes or fees charged by any person, maybe local authority, local government, or municipal taxes, or panchayati tax, any taxes it is there, that shall be included in the valuation. Suppose local body taxes is that 10% of total value, that value shall be included for the purpose of determination of value of supply. But it shall not be included CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST, compensation cess. These 5 are not included in the value of supply. Remaining all taxes, any taxes levied by local government or local body or local authority, that such taxes shall be included. Any luxury tax shall be included. Any local body tax you can include it. Any municipality tax you can include. Any panchayati tax you can include. All the taxes shall be included except CGST, SGST, IGST, UTGST and compensation. This shall not be included in the value of supply. Second, any amount that the supplier is liable to pay in relation to such supply, but which has been incurred by the recipient of the supply and not included in the price actually paid or payable for the goods or services. For example, if the supplier is agreed to supply goods to the point of recipient at the location of the recipient, that means the supplier has to incur the freight charges. In such a case, the recipient has paid the amount. Actually, supplier has to pay the amount supplier has to incur such amount to deliver the goods to the recipient. But in such a case, the recipient has paid such amount to the recipient has incurred such freight amount. Such a freight amount shall be included in the value of supply. Understand? For example, insurance also. Insurance shall be incurred by the supplier, but actually the amount is paid by the recipient. Such amount shall be included. Actually, insurance transport shall be included by the supplier, but such amount is paid by the recipient. In such a case, the amount of insurance, the amount of transport shall be included in the value of supply. Understand? Next. Third, incidental expenses. Incidental expenses means any loading charges, unloading charges, packing charges, commission, installation. All these charges are incidental charges. These incidental charges shall be borne by the supplier. But if such expenses is incurred by the recipient, it shall be included in the value of supply. All these expenses shall be incurred by the shall be as per the agreement. Suppose, for example, as per the agreement, if the supply includes all incidental expenses, commission, packing, transport, but such expenses is incurred by the recipient, in such a case, all incidental expenses shall be added to the value of asset. I can read for better understanding. Incidental expenses including commission and packing charged by the supplier to the recipient of supply, and any amount charged for anything done by the supplier in respect of the supply of goods or services, or both at the time or before delivery of the goods or supply. All incidental expenses, anything, maybe packing, transportation, commission, shall be included in the value of supply. That means, then interest or late fee. Next, interest, late fee, penalty for delayed payment for any consideration for the supply. That means if I am supplying goods to Mr. X, in the invoice I have clearly mentioned, if the amount is not paid within 15 days, an interest of 2% per month will be charged, or a late fee of 100 rupees will be charged, and the amount also shall be paid by the recipient. In such a case, the value of supply shall be included. These interest, late fee shall be included in the value of asset. Understand? Go to next. Subsidies directly linked to the price, excluding the subsidies provided by the central government or state government. This is very important points. In bits also sometimes they are asking. In multiple choice they are asking this type of questions. Subsidies given by any person other than state government or central government, it shall be included in the value of asset. But subsidies given by central government or state government, it shall be reduced from the value of supply. If subsidy is given by third party, it shall be included. If subsidy is given by central government or state government, it shall be reduced. Understand? Then, what are the 5 points of inclusion? Any taxes, cesses, fees, or anything charged by any person, it shall be included in the value of asset, excluding CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST, compensation. These 5 are not included. And any amount, if the supplier is liable to pay, but such amount is incurred by the recipient, such amount also shall be included in the value of asset. The incidental expense like packing, transporter insurance, it shall be included in the value of assets. Late pay, penalty, fine for any consideration, it shall be included in the value of asset. Value of supplies are not asset, value of supply. Then third, subsidies given by third party shall be included in the value of supply, but subsidies given by central government or state government shall not be included in the value of asset. Understand? Next. Explanation. For the purpose of this subsection, the amount of subsidy shall be included in the value of the supplier who receive the subsidy or other than government. That we have already discussed. The value of supply shall not include any discount which is given. Previously we have discussed include the exclusions. Inclusion, sorry. Now we are going to discuss exclusions. What are the exclusions? We can deduct from the value of supply. That one, the value of supply shall not include any discount which is given before or at the time of supply if such a discount has been recorded in the invoice in respect of such supply. That means when you are supplying the goods, you have given 10%. Suppose the value is 1 lakh, the 10% you have given discount. The invoice you have recorded such amount, 1 lakh total amount, 10% discount, that is equal to 10,000. Therefore, net amount is 90,000. In such a case, discount shall be reduced from the value of supply, because the discount amount has been known before or at the time of issuing invoice, and such a discount amount has been recorded in the invoice. Once it is known at the time of invoice, at the time of issue of invoice, second, the discount duly recorded in the invoice, then it will be allowed. Then second case, after the supply is made, because before the supply you made, you have deducted. Here we are discussing about after the supply has been effected. If, then that also we are going to discuss. What is that one? After the supply has been effected, if such a discount is established in terms of an agreement entered into it, or before the time of such supply specifically linked to relevant invoices, and the input tax is attributable to the discount on the basis of the document issued by the supplier has been received by the recipient of the supplier. Before issue of invoice, if you have given any discount that shall be recorded in the invoice, it shall be given. It shall be reduced from the value of supply. The discount is allowed. Then after the supply, if you have any discount, if you have given any discount, then only one case it will be allowed. What is that one? The discount shall be established before the invoice made. That means before supply is made, you know that one. For example, today I have sent 100 packets of 1000 liters of 1000 packets of oil to the recipient, to the dealer. Example, if the dealer is selling 1000 packets in the month, I have given additional tax discount of 2% as per the agreement. I have an agreement with my distributor. If you sell 1000 liters of oil, then I have given additional tax discount of 2%. For that, I have made an agreement with my distributor, and that agreement has to when that agreement has made, that agreement has made before the supply made. Before the supply made, I have made an agreement with the distributor. You can sell 1000 liters. I can give additional discount of 2%. That means in the invoice we are not mentioning, because if you are selling, if that distributor selling 1000 liters or not, we don't know. That's why we are not mentioning the discount. But we have some agreement. Then we are supplying 1000 liters of oil. Then the distributor has sold 1000 liters. Then in such a case, the discount shall be given. Not a problem, because the discount already mentioned in the agreement. So as per the agreement only, I have given the discount because he has sold the 1000 liters. And second one, on 1000 liters, suppose the amount is 10 lakhs rupees. 10 lakhs, suppose the GST rate is 18%. So 18% of 10 lakhs, how much? 1,80,000. The recipient has to take input tax credit of 1,80,000. Understand? I have supplied 10 lakhs worth of oil plus GST of 1,80,000. The recipient has paid 10 lakhs plus 1,80,000. That means recipient is eligible to claim 1,80,000 input tax credit. But I have given additional discount after additional discount of 2%. 10 lakhs on 10 lakhs, how much? 2% of 10 lakhs, how much? Suppose 20,000. On 20,000 GST, how much? 20,000 into 18%, 3,600. Because he has already availed ITC of 1,80,000, he has to reduce the 3,600. The recipient, I have given the additional discount, the recipient has taken the discount, but on the discount he has already claimed ITC. So to the extent of 2% of such amount, GST on such amount shall be reversed by the recipient. Understand? I can explain again. If the any discount is given before the supply and it shall be mentioned in the invoice. It shall be mentioned in the invoice, it shall be recorded in the invoice, the discount amount, it will be always allowed. But discount is given after the supply is made. In such a case, I have an agreement, before the supply made, I have an agreement with the recipient. I have given additional discount. As per the terms of agreement, I will give you additional discount. Then if you sell, I can give the discount. But the recipient has to reverse such input tax credit on the purchases made. He has to reverse the input tax credit on the purchase. Already he has taken 1,80,000 input tax credit. He has to, how much he has to reverse? 2%. What is the 2%? 10 lakhs into 2% means 20,000. 18% of 20,000, 3,600. So he has to reverse 3,600. That means he has to reverse the input tax credit on such discounted amount. I can read for better understanding. After the supply has been made, if such a discount is established in terms of an agreement entered into or before the time of such supply and specifically linked to the relevant invoice. Okay. Input tax credit is attributable to the discount on the basis of document issued by the supplier has been reversed by the recipient of the supply. He has to reverse such a ITC. Understand? Next concept. This is only reading purpose, not method. Where the value of supply of goods or services or both cannot be determined under subsection 1. What we have discussed till now, it is a subsection 1 only. Value of supply means the value of additions and deletions we have. That is what is the value of additions and what is the value of deduction we have already learned. So the same is discussed in subsection 1. The same it is mentioned here. Where the value of supply of goods or services or both cannot be determined under subsection 1, the same shall be determined in such manner as may be prescribed. The rule, that is, some rules are there. If the value of supply is not determined, the value shall be determined under some rules. Under rule number 27 to 31, some rules are there. According to the rules, the value shall be determined. That we are going to discuss it right now. Related person we already discussed. What is the related person? We are now discussing. What is the related person? Related person means such persons are officers or directors of one of another business. I have another business. In another business, one of the director is there. In my company, I am supplying any goods or services to such directors. It is treated as a related person. Such persons are legally recognized partners in the business. If in a partnership firm, some 2 or 3 partners are there. If any supply is made between these partners, it shall be treated as the related persons. Such persons are employer and employee. If the person is employer and employee, they are also called as related persons. It's only reading purpose, not more than just. A third person controls or holds less than 25% or more than 25% of voting shares of both of them. Then one person, if one person is there, he is holding 25% in X company. If he is holding 25% or more in Y company, then in such a case, X and Y are related person, not myself. I am holding 25%, more 25%, more than 25% in A company, more than 25% in B company. In such a case, A and B is a related person. If any suppliers meet A and B, then they are treating as a related person. And one of them controls the other. If one person is controlling the other company, then they are a related person. A third person controls both of them. One person is there, he is controlled two companies. Then in such a case, both the companies can be treated as a related person. Such person together controls a third one. Two companies are controlling one company, third company. That is also treated as a related company. Such persons are the members of the same family. Same, if any person, that means brother, sister, and father, mother, wife, husband, they are treated as a related persons only. One of them is the sole agent, a sole distributor, sole concessionaire of the other. Okay. Next. It is very important concept. Just please concentrately listen. Valuation of supply made by component manufacturer using molds and dies owned by original equipment manufacturer sent free of cost. That means first I read and I can discuss. Circular number 47/21/2018 GST dated 8/6/2018 has clarified that while calculating the value of supply made by the component manufacturer using molds and dies owned by the original equipment manufacturer sent free of cost to him. That means component manufacturer using some molds and dies for manufacturing of component. One component manufacturer is there, one original equipment manufacturer is there. Component manufacturer is component the one component. For that some molds or dies are required. These dies and molds owned by original equipment manufacturer, so that these molds or dies sent by the original equipment manufacturer to component manufacturer free of cost. In such a case, the value of such molds and dies shall be included in the value of supply by the component manufacturer? No, because these once the component manufacturer manufacturing the component, it shall be supplied again to the original manufacturer only. In such a case, the value of supply of such molds and dies shall not be included in the value of the supply made by the component manufacturer, because the cost of molds and dies were not to be incurred by the component. He is not incurring any cost. He is just using such one. The original equipment manufacturer has sent molds and dies. The component manufacturer using such molds and dies for manufacture of components and again sent to the original equipment manufacturer. In such a case, the molds and dies, the value of molds and dies shall not be included in the value of component manufacturer, and these original equipment is sent free of cost to these molds and dies. In such a case, he is also eligible to claim input tax credit, because original equipment manufacturer has sent free of cost. Actually, any item sent by free of cost, ITC shall not be allowed. But in such here, as per the circular, the original equipment manufacturer can claim the input tax credit also. Understand? First you read one time, then you can easily understand. Then, incidental expenses. Incidental expenses such as commission, packing, charged by the supplier or anything else done by the supplier in relation to the supply at the time or before delivery of good or supply of service must be added to the value. That means if any incidental expenses, maybe commission, maybe parking, maybe loading, all this type of expenses shall be included in the value of supply. Then commission. This may be paid. Second one is, what is the commission? This commission is actually paid to the agent for getting the order. Commission is being paid to the agent for getting the order, and such amount has been recorded from the recipient also, because the value of supply shall be included. So any commission paid to the buyer for supply for getting the order, it shall be included in the value of supply. Next, packing. If charged by the supplier to the recipient is similarly a part of the value of supply. Okay, packing also included. Inspection or certification charges. Sometimes inspection is required for taking of that goods. Without inspection, the recipient is not interested to take. In such a case, the recipient asked the supplier to do the inspection certification by third party. If the inspection is okay, then only the recipient will take the goods. In such a case, the inspection charges has to be incurred by the supplier. Such inspection charges also shall be included in the value of the supply. Next, installation testing charges. Then installation testing means some machinery is required to be installed at the recipient place. In such a case, the installation and testing is required. Therefore, installation testing done by the supplier at the recipient location, such amount also shall be included in the value of supply. Understand? Then the payment, loading, designing charges included before supply. If all these are incurred before supply only, if all these are incurred before supply, then it shall be included in the value of asset. That is what shall be included: incidental expenses, commission, packing, inspection, certification, installation, testing charges, payment charges, loading and designing charges, all shall be included, and it is a part of supply. Then all taxes, fees also shall be included, and interest and penalty it shall be included, and any liability of the supplier paid by the recipient in relation to supply, that shall be included. Any late fee, interest, penalty also shall be included. Any subsidy is given by third party, it shall be included. Any subsidy is given by the government, it shall be excluded from the value of supply. Any discount, it shall be, and any discount if it is recorded in the invoice, it shall be deducted from the invoice. Any discount as per the terms of agreement is given, and it shall not be recorded in the invoice also. Once as per the agreement, if the discount is given, it shall be accepted. Two conditions: once it shall be as per agreement, it shall be the second one, ITG shall be reversed by the recipient for such a discount. Understand? Okay. Outward freight transit insurance, where the suppliers agree to deliver the goods at the buyer's premises and arranges for the transport and insurance, the contract of supply becomes a composite supply, the principal supply being supply of goods. Therefore, outward freight and transit insurance become the part of the value of the composite supply, and GST is payable thereon at the same rate as the applicable for relevant goods. However, if the contract for supply is on ex-factory basis, where buyer pays outward freight and insurance, the same will not be included in the value of supply of goods. As per the agreement, the goods shall be delivered. The goods shall be delivered to the buyer's premises. In such a case, the supplier has to incur what is the transport and insurance. I can repeat again. As per the agreement, supplier has to deliver the goods to the buyer's premises only. In such a case, the buyer has to incur insurance and transport. That means he is supplying value of goods, insurance and transport. It is a composite supply. We have already discussed the composite supply under concept of supply. So what is that one? He has supplied value of goods, transport and insurance. What is the principal goods here? The principal goods is supply of goods. The principal supply here is supply of goods. In such a case, the rate applicable for the value of goods shall be applied to the whole of the composite supply, and it shall be included in the value of supply. Then if the contract is for supply at factory only, ex-factory, that means he has sold at factory only. After that, he has not incurred any insurance, he has not incurred into price charges. In such a case, it shall be borne by the buyer. In such a case, the value shall not be included. As per the agreement, it will be included. Then the value of supply shall be included transit insurance transport. As per the agreement, he has supply at the supply premises only. Then in such a case, the value of freight, the value of insurance shall be incurred by the recipient. In such a case, the value of these two shall not be included in the value of supply of goods or services. Understand? Next. Interest, late fee or penalty for delayed payment if it is supplied, if it is charged by the supplier. Time of supply for such interest, late fee, penalty is the date when such amount is received by the supplier. Actually, if the interest, late fee, penalty charged by the supplier, then what is the time of supply? Time of supply shall be the actual date of payment. In the what is the chapter? I think in time of supply we have already discussed interest, late fee, penalty for the what is the time of supply. The time of supply shall be the actual date of payment. Simply charging, and the recipient is not paid. If the recipient is not paid, it is not a value of supply. Once the recipient is paid, then only time of supply happens. That means time of supply for interest, late fee, penalty shall be the actual date of payment. Suppose today I am sending the goods. What is the time of supply? The time of supply shall be the today only. But if I receive payment after 1 month also, but time of supply is today only I sold. Today only I sold the goods. Today itself the time of supply. But in case of interest penalty, the actual date of payment. Understand? Okay. Then CGST valuation rules. That means if the value is not determinable, the value of supply, if it is not determinable, we are not possible to ascertain the value of supply, then according to valuation rules, we can value the supply of goods or services. One by one we are going to discuss. Actually rules, 5 rules are there. Rule 27, Rule 28, 29, 30, 31. 5 rules we have to concentratedly listen. Rule 27. Value of supply of goods or services where the consideration is not wholly in money. If the consideration not wholly in money, some in money, some in not wholly in money only. In such a case, then value shall be determined in the following sequential order. I can read first, I can discuss later. If the consideration for a supply of goods or services is not solely in terms of money, the supply is valued in any of the following methods. If the supply of goods or service not wholly in money, the following methods are available. Then in brackets, what is that one? The methods are to be used in order of sequence. One coming later in sequence is applicable only if the previous methods are applicable. That means we have 4 methods available: A, B, C, D. You cannot directly go to D. First you have to apply A. If it is not applicable, then you have to go to B. Then if it is also not available, then you have to go to C. Directly you should not go to B. Directly you should not go to D also. If A is not applicable, then go to B. If B also not applicable, then go to C. If C also not applicable, then go to D. Like in a sequential order you have to go. First, what is done? The open market value of such supply. Suppose today I have supplied one laptop. Then the consideration not wholly in the money. In such a case, then what is the value of such a laptop? The open market value of such supply. If today I am sending some goods, the open market value, suppose today I have sent this to one person, it is not wholly in the money. But today one more computer I can sell to my friend. Open market value, no. But the value of laptop to an unrelated customer I sold for 50,000. Then open market value is 50,000 only. Therefore, if the value of goods or services where the consideration not wholly in money, in such a case, the value of supply shall be the open market value. Then second one, B, if the open market value of supply is not known, the consideration in money plus money equivalent of money non-monetary consideration, if such amount is known at the time of supply. That means if I have purchased one machinery for 1 lakh, but I have paid 80,000 only. For 20,000, I have supplied my audit service. That's why he has reduced at 20,000. So in such a case, suppose open market value is not possible, since I have already paid money 80,000 plus money equivalent of my non-monetary consideration. I have already informed this is my service of 20,000. I have given it as a free of cost, so that you give that machinery. In such a case, then open market value of supply is not available. The consideration received in money plus money equivalent of non-monetary consideration, if such amount is known at the time of supply. First one, the open market value of supply. If the open market value of supply is not known, then consideration received in money plus money equivalent of non-monetary consideration, if such amount is known at the time of supply. Then third one, if the value cannot be determined under the previous 2 clauses, under the above 2 clauses, the value of supply is not available. In such a case, the value of supply of goods service of like kind and quality. I am supplying only unique product. The open market value is not possible. Then money equivalent to non-monetary consideration also not available. In such a case, like kind means similar kind of machinery if any person is manufacturing, then the price shall be taken accordingly. If open market value is not available, then the non-monetary consideration is also not available. In such a case, the supply of similar goods is if any person supplying similar goods or similar goods of like kind and quality shall be taken into account. I can read. If the value cannot be determined under the previous two clauses, the value of supply of goods or service of like kind and quality. Of like kind and quality cases we can take. Then, fourth one. Finally, if the other methods are not available, all other methods are not available, then it shall be worked out on cost of supply plus 10% markups. Then means if the three methods are not available, what is the cost? Then in such, I have to add 10%. That is the value of supply. It is as per rule 30. Then this is also not available. Then or by reasonable means best judge assessment, best judge method. If any methods are not available, the open market value is not possible, non-monetary consideration value also not available, then the supply of similar like kind and quality is also not available, then cost plus 10%. If that is also not available, best judge method I can calculate, and by reasonable means, that is as per rule 31. Understand? These are the four methods. As per rule 27, that means value of supply of goods or service that are not wholly in the money. And money plus non-money, two are there in supply. In such a case, then these four methods you have to follow. And second, rule 28. What is the rule 28? Value of supply of goods or service both between the distinct or related persons. Related person we have already discussed, other than through an agent. It shall not be applicable for agent other than through an agent. If any value of supply of goods or services between the distinct person or between the related person, then in such a case the open market value of such supply, and second one, the open market value of such supply is not known. The value of supply of goods or some similar services of like kind and quality. That means if the open market value is possible, then you can calculate as per the open market value of supply. If the open market value is not available, then the value of supply shall be the value of supply of goods or services of like kind and quality. Then if the value cannot be determined under two methods, cost plus 10%, that is as per rule 30, or best judge method, whichever is possible. Then in rule 27, one more method is there, B. Under B, what is that one? The open market value of such supply is not available. And the second case, what is that one? Here only three methods. There itself four methods. What is that fourth method? The open market value is not possible. Actually open market value is possible. If the open market value is not possible, what is that? As per rule 27, if the open market value is possible, open market value. Open market value is not available, then open market value is not possible, then the method is open market, the consideration received in money plus money of non-monetary consideration, if it is known at the time of supply. Then open market value, if these two methods are not available, value of supply of goods or services of similar kind and quality, then it is also not possible, cost plus 10% or best judge method. As per rule 27. As per rule 28, this is only one thing is not there. What is that one? That is consideration received in money plus non-monetary consideration. It is not there in rule 28. Remaining are same. Rule 28 and 27 are same. But rule 27, value of supply of goods or services that are not received wholly in money, but here between the supply between the related person. Then next, rule 29. Suppose then one more clarification is given. If the goods are intended to be supplied as such by the recipient, that is value is equal to 90% of the price charged for the supply of like kind and quality by the recipient to his unrelated customer. However, it is not mandatory. That means if I am taking the goods from the supplier and the value of supply is not known, and I am again further supplied to some other person, then 90% of such value shall be taken by the supplier. X is supplying to Mr. Y. The value is not known, but Y is supplying to goods for 1 lakh. In such a case, supply is made by X to Y is 90% of 1 lakh. 90,000 he can take. That is only optional method. It is not compulsory. Okay. Next. Rule 29. Value of supply of goods are received through agent. Previously, we have other than agent we have discussed. Rule 28. Here agent. Supply of goods between the principal and agent is valued by the following methods applied in sequence. Open market value of goods. Okay. 90% of the price charged for the supply of goods of like kind and quality by the recipient to his unrelated customer. That means we have already discussed. I am a principal. I am supplying to the agent for some amount, but the value is not known. But the agent further supplying such goods to unrelated customer for 1 lakh. In such a case, the value of supply for principal is 90% of 1 lakh. 90% of the price charged by the agent to his unrelated customer. Understand? Next. In case values cannot be determined under A, then the following values have to be considered. Value of supply based on the cost, that is cost plus 10%. Then value of supply determined by using reasonable means consistent with the principles and general provisions of GST like best judgment method. First myth, if it is a supplies between the agent and principal, it is the open market value. If the open market value is not available, 90% of the price charged by agent to the unrelated customer. If it is not available, then value of supply based on the cost, that was cost plus 10% or best judge method. 3 methods we have discussed. 27, 28, 29. 27 means value of supply of goods or services that the consideration not wholly in the money. And the value of supply of goods or services between the related person other than the agent, that is rule 28. And rule 29 is the value of supply of goods or services through an agent. Then rule 30. Value of supply of goods or services based on cost. Already we have discussed value of supply of goods or service based on cost. We have first arrived the cost and that we had to add 10%. The total cost is 100. Then the value of supply means supply shall be the 110% of cost. I can read. If the value of supply of goods or services cannot be worked out by the foregoing methods, its value will be 110% of cost of production, manufacture, acquisition of such goods or cost of production of such services. Okay. Then residual method. If all this rule 27, 28, 29, 30 is not at all available, then we have to follow the residual method. Residual method means best judgment. As per best judgment, I can value the supply. I can read now. The supplier of goods need to be sequentially follows rule 27 to 30 before valuing the goods as per residual rule 31. Service provider, however, have the option of valuing the services as per rule 30 or rule 31 after sequentially following the rule 27 to 29. The residual method consists of determination of value by using reasonable means consisting with the principles and general provisions of section 15 and these rules. If all these methods are not applicable, we have to follow the residual method. What is the residual method? Best judge method. As per best of my knowledge, I can value the supply. Understand? Okay. Next. Yeah. Then next concept is value of supply in case of lottery, betting, gambling and horse racing. Just a minute please. Yeah, sorry. Then determination of value of supply in case of lottery, betting and gambling and horse racing. In all these cases, how to determine the value of supply? In case of first, we are going to discuss the lottery. Then if the first I have to read and then I have to explain. Supply value. Supply of lottery run by the state government. Higher of the two amounts must be deemed to be the value. 100 by 112 face of the face value of the ticket. 100 by 112 of the price is notified in the official gazette by the organizing state. That means if lottery is run by the state government, for example, the lottery ticket is 100 rupees. Then what is the value? 100 into 100 by 112. 100 by 112 of the face value of ticket. If the face value of ticket is 112, then suppose that the face value of ticket is 200. 200 into 100 by 112. If the supply of lottery run by the state government, and in case if the supply of lottery not run by the state government, but it is authorized by the state government. Understand? If it is not run by the state government, it is only authorized by the state government. In such a case, the value of supply shall be 100 by 128 of the face value of the ticket, or 100 by 128 of the price as notified in the official gazette by the organizing state. That means if it is run by the state government, 100 by 112 of the face value. If it is authorized by the state government, the value of supply shall be the 100 by 128 into the face value. Understand? Then in case of betting, gambling, horse racing, for all these things, what is the value of supply means 100%, the value of supply shall be the face value of the bet or the amount paid to the totalizer. In case of betting, 100% of the such value. If I am betting for 1 lakh rupees, the value of supply shall be 1 lakh rupees. Then in case of horse racing, the amount paid to the totalizer. In case of lottery betting, the value shall be the 100% of betting. In case of horse racing, what are the amount you are paying to the totalizer? It is the value of supply. I can repeat once again. In case the lottery is run by the state government, then the value of supply shall be the 100 by 112 of the face value of the ticket. If the lottery is organized by state government, then the value of supply shall be 100 by 128 of the face value of ticket. In case of lottery, betting, gambling, in all these cases, value of supply shall be the 100% of the face value of the betting or lottery, face value of betting and gambling. If I bet for 1 lakh rupees to win the bet, the value of supply shall be 1 lakh. In case of horse racing, the amount paid to the totalizer shall be the value of supply. Understand? Next. This is only for reading purpose, not much attention required. Then special provisions relating to the determination of value of service of purchase or sale of foreign currency, including money changing. That is means how to value the supply in case of forex dealers. Forex dealers, what they are doing? They are selling or purchasing the foreign currency. Then what is the value of supply for them? There are two options are available. First, we are going to discuss first option. Transaction where one of the currencies exchanged in Indian rupees, then the value of supply is the difference between the buying rate or selling rate of the currency and RBI reference rate for that currency at the time of exchange multiplied with the total number of units. That means one of the currency is Indian rupee. Suppose I have Indian rupees. I want to purchase US dollar, 10,000 US dollars I have to purchase. So in such a case, the value of supply shall be the difference between the buying rate or selling rate and the RBI reference rate. Today, I have Indian rupees. I would like to purchase $10,000. The dollar, that means I am purchasing. That means the forex dealer is selling. So therefore, selling rate shall be considered. What is the selling rate? Today's selling rate is 70 rupees for them, for money laundering, for forex dealers. But as RBI reference rate is 70.5. Forex dealer is selling US dollars for 70 rupees, but RBI reference rate for selling is 69.5. What is the difference? 70 minus 69.5, 0.50. That means 0.5, 50 paise. It shall be multiplied by number of units. How many units I am purchasing? I am purchasing 10,000 US dollars. 10,000 into 50 paise. How much? 5,000. Understand? Multiplied by the total units of foreign currency. That means the difference between the buying or selling rate and the RBI reference rate multiplied by the total units of foreign currency. If I am buying total 1 lakh UK pounds, so 1 lakh UK pounds, the difference between the RBI rate and selling rate is 50. 1 lakh into 50. How much? 50,000. Therefore, the value of supply shall be the 50,000. That means one of the currency, if one of the currencies in Indian rupees, then the value of supply shall be the difference between the buying rate or selling rate and the RBI reference rate, and it shall be multiplied with the number of foreign units at the time of supply. First option, first one. Second one, RBI reference rate for a currency is not available. Where RBI reference rate is not available, in such a case, what is the value of supply? If RBI reference rate is not available, then the value of supply shall be the 1% of gross amount of Indian rupees provided or received by the person changing the money. Suppose RBI reference is not available. Today I want to purchase 10,000 US dollars. The rate is 70 rupees. 10,000 into 70, how much? 7 lakhs. So 1% of 7 lakhs shall be the value of supply. If the RBI reference rate is not available, first I have to convert that amount into Indian rupees. Suppose I required $10,000. 10,000 into today rate is 70 rupees by the forex dealer. 10,000 into 77 lakhs. On that 1% of 7 lakhs is 7 lakhs. 1% of 7 lakhs is equal to how much? 7,000. Therefore, the value of supply shall be the 7,000. Then, third one. Transactions where neither of the currency exchanged in Indian rupees. That means previously what there no one of the currency is Indian rupees, and second one's RBI reference is not available. Third one, none of the currencies are in Indian rupees. I have US dollar, I buy UK pounds. I have UK pounds, I buy Japanese yen. I have US dollars, I would like to buy I have US dollars, I have to buy UK pounds. I have UK pounds, I would like to buy Japanese yen. In such a case, there is no Indian currency. In such a case, first you have to convert into Indian rupees. You have US dollars, you want to buy UK pounds. That US dollars you have to convert into Indian rupees. That UK pounds also you have to convert into Indian rupees. Suppose you require 10,000 US pounds, 10,000 into, suppose the rate is 80, 10,000 into 80, 8 less you have to convert. Then what is you have US dollars. How many US dollars you have? 12,000. 12,000 into 70 you can convert. Suppose the rate of dollar is 70. 10,000 into 70 you can convert. 7 less 20. Whichever is lower, that you have to consider. 1% of such lower amount shall be considered. Suppose US dollar amount converted into Indian rupees is 7 lakhs. UK dollars converted into Indian rupees is 7 lakhs 20. 7 lakhs or 7 lakhs 20, whichever is lower, 7 lakhs is lower. 1% of 7 lakhs shall be considered for value of supply. 1% of 7 lakhs means 7,000. Therefore, the value of supply shall be the 7,000. I can repeat it again. Transaction where one of the currency is INR, then the value of supply shall be the difference between the buying or selling rate and the RBI reference rate multiplied by the foreign currency units. Where RBI reference rate is not available, the value of supply shall be the 1% of the gross amount charged into Indian rupees. That is the value of supply. If none of the currencies are Indian rupees, first you have converted into Indian rupees both the currencies. Then whichever is lower amount you have to take. On that 1% is the value of supply. Understand? Okay. This is option 1. Then option 2 also we are going to discuss right now. Then in option 2, up to 1 lakh amount received, 1% of gross amount charged or 250 rupees, whichever is higher. Today the dealer is received 1 lakh rupees. Up to 1 lakh rupees, the value of supply shall be the 1% of gross amount of the currency of exchange or 250 rupees is whichever is here. Exceeding 1 lakh to 10 lakhs. In such a case, 1% that is 1000 plus 0.5% of the gross amount charged. Minus this that is minus previous already we have 1 lakh already calculated, that we have to deduct. And if the amount exceed 10 lakhs, 5,500 plus 0.1% of the gross amount currency charged by 10 minus 10 lakhs or 60,000, whichever is higher. That means 1%, 0.5%, 0.1%. Up to 1 lakh, 0.5, up to 1 lakh 1%, 1 lakh to 10 lakhs 0.5% plus 1,000. Above 10 lakhs 5,500 plus 0.1% or 60,000, whichever is lower. That is maximum amount of value of supply shall be the 60,000 only. Understand? Okay. Then okay. Special provision relating to the determination of value of service of booking of tickets for air travel by air travel agent. What is the value of supply in case of air travel agent? In case of air travel agent, he is booking tickets domestic as well as international air travel agent. In such a case, if he has the value of supply shall be the 5% of basic fare in case of domestic travel. In case of domestic travel, that means if he has booked any tickets within India, then the value of supply shall be the 5% of domestic travel. In case if he is booking any tickets of international, then the value of supply shall be the 10% of basic fare of international travel. That means value of supply shall be 5% in case 5% of basic fare in case of domestic travel. In case of international travel, the value of supply shall be the 10% of basic fare. Understand? That's the simple only. Next. Special provisions relating to determination of value of service in relation to life insurance business, because this life insurance so many persons are doing life insurance business. LIC is doing, and Tata AIG is doing, SBI Life is doing, so many insurance companies are doing insurance business. So what is the value of supply? That we are going to discuss. First, in this also 4 methods are there. Policy with dual benefits of risk coverage and investment. That means risk coverage and investment. Suppose today I have taken a policy of 10 lakhs. Every year I have to pay 50,000. That means I am paying only 10 lakhs. After a period of 20 years, I will get 20 lakhs. For 20 year term, every year I am paying 50,000. 20 years into 50,000, how much? 10 lakhs. But I am getting 20 lakhs at the end of some 20 years or 20 years, depending on the case to case. In such a case, what is the value of supply? Policy with dual benefits of risk coverage and premium. Risk coverage and investment. In such a case, value of supply shall be the gross amount charged less the amount allocated for investment or savings if such allocation is intimated to the policy holder at the time of collection of premium. That means today I am paying 50,000. If insurance company is intimated me 20,000 relating to risk and 30,000 relating to investment, if they inform not orally in return in the premium receipt itself, then the value of supply shall be the gross premium 50,000 minus how much amount allocated for investment. If the amount allocated for investment is 30,000, 50 minus 30,000, so 20,000 only value of supply. That means if any amount allocated for investment, it is not liable to tax. If any amount allocated for risk, it is only value of supply. If my total amount is risk, then 100% I have to take value of supply. If my total amount is relating to investment, I need not pay any tax. That means gross amount charged minus amount allocated for the investment. If my policy is covering both risk and investment is not liable to tax. Therefore, gross amount charged minus amount allocated for investment, that is risk. So on risk only the value of supply shall be applicable. Then single premium annuity policy, that is only single premium I am paying, one time premium for my total for my total life coverage. Then in such a case, 10% of single premium charged from the policy holder where the allocation for investment or savings is not intimate to the policy holder, where the allocation for investment is not intimated. In such a case, if I pay only single premium, in such a case 10% of single premium shall be the value of supply. First one, if it is cover risk and insurance investment, then gross amount minus investment is the value of supply. In case of single premium, 10% of single premium, if the amount allocated for investment is not intimated to the policy holder. Third, in any other cases, like other cases, if the all life insurance other cases, 25% of premium charges shall be the value of supply. Suppose today I am paying 1 lakh towards insurance, therefore 25% of value, that means 1 lakh into 25%, 25,000. So 25,000 is value of supply. It is not a value of tax. It is a value of supply. On that we are going to pay tax. Suppose the rate of tax is 18%. 18% of 25,000. Then that amount only liable to pay tax. This is 25%. Other cases, 25% premium charged shall be the value of supply for first year. In subsequent year, 12.5% of premium charges shall be the value of supply. First year for, I have paid 1 lakh, so the value of supply shall be 25,000. On that I need to pay, insurance companies need to pay tax. Second year on 1 lakh, the insurance companies need to pay 12.5% of 1 lakh. That means 12,500 is the value of supply. On that they are liable to pay tax. Policy with only risk cover. Only risk cover. I have taken a policy for risk cover. 25,000 today I have paid. Any risk happens, once any death or anything happened, the amount goes to my nominee. But if I am alive, I am not getting anything. That means I have only risk cover. In such a case, 100% of such value shall be the value of supply. I have taken a insurance policy for 10 lakhs. If anything happens, the 10 lakhs go to my family, my nominee. In such a case, it is only risk. Then I need to pay 25,000 per annum. I have paid 25,000. What is the value of supply? In such a case, the value of supply shall be the 25,000. In 4 cases, I have informed you. I discussed policy with dual benefits, gross premium minus amount allocated for investment. If the investment allocation is known at the time of issue of at the time of collection of premium, single premium, 10% of the single premium shall be the value of supply, where the allocation for investment is not intimated to the policyholder. Other cases, 25% of premium charged for first year and 12.5% for subsequent years. If I had taken only risk cover, then entire my premium shall be the value of supply. Understand? Okay. Next. Special provisions relating to the determination of value of second-hand goods margin scheme. That means, for example, I have buy the second-hand goods, I can sell the second-hand goods. That means, what is the value of supply? The value of supply shall be the difference between the buying and selling rate. Selling price and buying price. I am a second-hand car dealer. I buy a car from you for 5 lakhs. I sell the car for 6 lakhs. That means difference between buying and selling rate is 6 lakhs minus 5 lakhs. Therefore, my value of supply shall be 1 lakh only. But I am not eligible to take input tax credit. The second hand person is not eligible to take input tax credit. I can read for better understanding. Where a taxable supply is provided by a person dealing in buying and selling of second hand goods, that is used goods as such, or after such minor processing which does not change the nature of the goods. Some painting work I am doing for car or anything. For example, only I am explaining you car for any second hand goods. Does not change the nature of goods where no input tax credit has been availed on purchase of such goods. The value of supply shall be the difference between the selling price and purchasing price. Where the value of supply is negative, it shall be ignored. That means I buy a car for 5 lakhs and I sell a car for 4,90,000. Means it is a negative. In such a case, it shall be ignored. The value of supply shall be ignored. If it is the positive, it shall be taken as a value of supply. Understand? Next. The purchase value of goods repossessed from a defaulting borrower who is not registered for the purpose of recovery of a loan or debt shall be deemed to be the purchase price of such goods by defaulting borrower, reduced by 5% for every quarter or part thereof between the date of purchase and date of disposal by person making such portion. That means one banking company is there. He is given a loan of 10 lakhs for purchasing a car. After 3-4 months, the borrower is defaulted. Then in such a case, the bank is repossessing such vehicle and sell to someone. In such a case, what is the value of supply? Understand? Bank is first given the loan to the borrower and the borrower is defaulted and the bank is taken the portion of the car and sold to someone else for recovery of that loan. Then in such a case, what is the value of supply means? The value of supply shall be the value, it shall be reduced by 5% per quarter or part thereof from the date of purchase, not from the date of loan borrowing, from the date of purchase till the date of sale by the person making the repossession. From the purchase date to sale date, 5% per quarter shall be reduced. I have explained, I have given almost 10 problems for each and every concept for better understanding. I can taken all this example from CA study material only. Understand? And note. Just a minute. Yeah. Next note. CGST leviable on interstate supply of second-hand goods received by registered person, registered second-hand goods dealer from any unregistered supplier has been exempted by notification 10/2017. That means when you are purchasing the second-hand goods from any unregistered person, you are not liable to pay any tax. Yeah. Next, 1 minute, please. Yeah. Okay. Special provisions relating to determination of value of redeemable vouchers, stamps, coupons, tokens. Then value of token, voucher or coupon or a stamp other than postage stamp which is redeemable against a supply of goods or services is equal to the money value of goods or services redeemable against such token, voucher or coupon or stamp. I can explain the same for better understanding with an example. I bought a 1000 vouchers from Big Bazaar and the same voucher I had given to my friend. Then he go to Big Bazaar and he has purchased only 800 rupees. But my voucher, my purchase voucher is 1000. I have given to my friend for the voucher, but he has purchased only for 800 rupees. In such a case, what is the value of supply? The value of supply shall be 800 only. Because he has purchased 800 worth only. Understand? If he has purchased 1200, the voucher 1000 plus 200 he has to give cash. If I purchase 1000 rupees voucher, my friend has taken that voucher and he has purchased 1200 means he has given the voucher and 200 cash is also given. That means the value of voucher is 1000. 200 he has again given the cash. The 200 also he has to give separate bill. The Big Bazaar. If I have given 1000 rupees voucher but my friend has used only for 800, in such a case the value of voucher shall be 800. Understand? Okay. Next. Pure agent. Pure agent means nothing. Pure agent means I have incurred cost on behalf of some other person and I have incurred the same amount. Suppose today I am paying electricity bill of one person 1200 and the same amount I have recovered from the 1200. I am a pure agent, therefore it is not a value of supply. If I have paid electricity bill of 1200 and I am asking to give 1300 for my services also, then 1300 is the value of supply. But actual amount I have taken from my friend, it is not a value of supply. It is only as a pure agent on behalf of third person I can incur some cost. For better understanding, I can give one more example. For a C&F agent, they have paid dock charges, they have paid custom duty, they have paid some charges, actual cost. If any actual cost is taken by the C&F agent from the principal, they are treated as a pure agent. But what are the charges made by the C&F agent? Any additional fees they are collecting, that is the value of supply. But actual amount they incur, it is not treated as a value of supply. It is only as a pure agent he has incurred such cost. I can read right now. Notwithstanding anything contained in the provisions of this chapter, the expenditure or cost incurred by the supplier as a pure agent of the recipient of supply shall be excluded from the value of supply. It shall not be included because I had taken from one person, I have given the same amount to another person as a pure agent. If all the following conditions are submitted, excluded from the value of supply, if all the following conditions are satisfied, namely, the supplier acts as a pure agent of the recipient of supply when he makes payment to the third party on authorization by such recipient. The first recipient has to authorize to incur such expenditure. The payment made by the pure agent on behalf of the recipient of supply has been separately indicated in the invoice. In the invoice, as a pure agent, I incurred this much cost. My expenses is like that. My expenses is, as a pure agent, I incurred 1000 towards electricity, and my fees is 100 if you mention, then pure agent cost will not be incurred. That is the only meaning. The payment made by the pure agent on behalf of the recipient of the supply and has been separately indicated in the invoice issued by the pure agent to the recipient of supply. First, the recipient is authorized to incur such expenditure, and in the bill itself they have to clearly mention what is the pure agent cost, what is his fees. The supplies procured by the pure agent from the third party as a pure agent of the recipient of supply are in addition to the services he supplied to his account. His supplies is different and pure agent costs are also different. These two also indicated in the invoices. Understand? First, it shall be authorized by the recipient, and such amount has to be separately indicated in the invoices. And in addition to his supplies, he has to incur his cost. That means C and F agent, he is also charged his fee. He is also incurred some expenses on behalf of the principal. Two also there. Therefore, in such a case, the value of a pure agent cost shall not be included. Then, what is pure agent? Pure agent means a person who enters into a contractual agreement with the recipient of supply to act as his pure agent or incur expenditure cost in the course of supply of goods or services or both. Neither intends to hold nor holds any title of the goods or services or both, so procured or supplied as a pure agent of the recipient of supply. If the C and F agent collect the goods from the customs, he can hand over the same to the principal. He is not hold the goods with him. Just he is not neither intends to hold such goods nor hold any title of the goods. Just he can take the goods from the customs department. He is hand on the such goods. In such a case, then such person shall be treated as a pure agent. Next, does not use for his own interest such goods or services so provided. He shall not use such goods for his own interest. Receives only the actual amount incurred to procure such goods or services in addition to the amount received for supplies he is provided on his own account. He is providing some services, he is collecting such amount, and the actual amount only he will receive. Receives only the actual amount to procure such goods. Then he can be called as a pure agent. He has entered into a contractual agreement. Then he shall not hold such goods and title of such goods with him, and he shall not use such goods. He shall not hold, he shall not use such goods, and this is the actual amount what he has incurred on behalf of this principal in addition to his supplies. His supplies means he is providing some service. Then he can collect such amount. As a pure agent also he is collecting some amount. So he shall not collect more than that amount. As a pure agent, he can collect for the services rendered, but the actual amount only he is collected from the principal. Understand? Okay. Rate of exchange other than Indian rupees, a determination of value. That means if I am importing goods, then what is the rate I have to apply? If I am importing services, what is the rate I have to apply? Because on that value only I have to pay tax. Suppose if I am importing today 1 lakh US dollars, 1 lakh today raise it 70, then 1 lakh into 70 lakhs. So my taxable value of services is 70 lakhs. What is the rate I have to take? First, for goods I can discuss. The relevant rate of exchange for determining the value of taxable goods is the rate notified by the CBEC, Central Board of Excise and Customs. That has been replaced as CBIC, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. Now actually I have mentioned CBSE, it is a CBIC, but CBEC also is there. Under section 14 of the Customs Section 1962, prevalent on the date of time of supply. In case of supply of goods, the relevant rate of exchange is CBEC rate as on the date of supply of goods. In case of services, next one, B, services. The relevant rate of exchange for determining the value of taxable services is the rate determined as per GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, relevant on the date of supply of service. In case of supply of goods, the relevant rate is the rate notified by the CBSE. In case of supply of services, the relevant rate is the rate determined by as per the generally accepted accounting principle, GAAP. For determining the value of taxable supply of goods, the rate is CBEC rate. The relevant rate for value of taxable supply of services, the relevant rate is GAAP. Understand? Yeah. Till now, we have complete discussed value of supply and determine rules for valuation of supplies, and second hand goods, what is the value of supply, and what is the value of supply for forex dealers, what is the value of supply in case of goods repossessed and sold by the borrower, the repossessed person, and the rate of exchange. All this we have discussed. I think you enjoyed the chapter of value of supply. There ends the chapter of value of supply. Tomorrow I have discussed problems based on value of supply. Thank you.